walking out of the change room into the dressing room, and like Alan Thicke's there, and he's just like, "Hey, Mike." I'm like, "Hey, Alan, what's up?" It's just like kind of surreal, like being around all these famous people. That was my first one-way contract. It was pretty cool. I remember the year before, I ended up putting my contract right on the glass in my bathroom, and I crossed off my two-way, and I put a one-way on there, and I put exactly what I wanted to make it. I was very close to getting the whole entire thing, but that was my first one-way contract, so that was pretty special.
I like to ask guests about things kind of in the order that they happened. So, you grew up in Canada and then moved to the US to play college hockey at Michigan State. So what was that like, moving to a different country and, playing at a school that was known for football? I mean, was that a weird transition for you at all?
No, I knew Michigan State before it. Well, it was always in my mind one of the bigger schools for sure. Being a part of the back then it was the CCHA. I knew that them. I knew of Michigan State and University of Michigan, so I was pretty familiar with that. But I ended up getting recruited by, oh my god, I think my mom said she actually saved them all. So, of all the letters, but it was something that I narrowed it down to Michigan State and Miami of Ohio between those 2 schools, and I ended up going on my official visits, and I ended up picking Michigan State. But yeah, a lot of people don't know this too, is, they're pretty big in agricultural, and one of the biggest things is all the grass was produced by Michigan State for all of the World Cup. So they had to be the same consistency with each playing field, and it was pretty cool to know that Michigan State had a part of all that too. So it is such an amazing school, and what they have going there right now is phenomenal. So it's great to be a Spartan now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you had a very productive college career there. But then, coming out of college, you weren't selected in the NHL draft. You ended up signing with the Atlanta Thrashers as a free agent, and you ended up having a very successful career and doing far better than most undrafted free agents do. But when you entered pro hockey as an undrafted guy, I mean, did that kind of piss you off? Did you kind of have like a chip on your shoulder a little bit?
No, not at all. I'm gonna say everything happens for a reason, and I ended up kind of back into my youth really kind of shaped who I am. I was very, very, very good at kind of seeing to and through the play. So that was something that I was really didn't realize I was doing at the time, but it ended up just coming natural to me. I was a very, very good hitter. I was a very the first pass out of the zone type of player. Nobody could get around me. I ended up one. I was with Chinguzi, and I ended up getting recruited by Richmond Hill Von Kings. It was Lindsay Hofford brought me over there, and they ended up going to the courts, I guess, ended up, I guess, putting the boundaries around my house. So it was kinda cool to be able to be, know, recruited by somebody, and I ended up going there, and we ended up winning the All Ontario. So we beat the GTHL team, the top GTHL team, OMHA team, and then the host, Kenora. It was in Kenora, Ontario. The host team was there, so we beat all of them, and we won the All Ontarios. I was MVP of the whole entire tournament and best defenseman. So, it's something that I kind of everybody would always come up to me and be like, "Hey, you played a great game," and I'm like, "Oh, well, thanks, but I could have played better." I would always think that, and that's one of the things that drove me. I was always told that I was too short. I was told that, maybe you should play forward, because back then, you had to be 6 feet. You had to be 6 feet, you had to score some goals. And to be honest, you had to be drafted and went to the OHL. I was none of those. I was never drafted, went to Michigan States. I was under 6 feet, and for the most parts, I if they had third assists, I would have a lot of assists, but, because they only have 2, I only have limited amount of points, but I remember going to the draft one year, and my dad was with me, and we're listening to everybody that's getting drafted. My friends were getting drafted, saying congratulations and everything. And then I went to both my draft year in person, and I was sitting there, and my dad was just like, "Let's go." And I'm like, "Well, I just kinda wanted to go and see the last person drafted." So we're kinda walking up the stairs, and I'm looking over at them, announcing it, and the last person, was called, and it wasn't me, and I'm like, "Alright, I'm gonna close that chapter and move on." And my dad's just like, "Well, hey, go find another way." And I'm like, "Wow, that really stood with me, like, throughout all these years." It's one of the things that there's always another way to get to where you wanna go.
In the 01-02 season, you played your first 16 NHL games, and you were still kind of back and forth from the NHL and the minor leagues then, but what was it like to finally get onto the NHL ice after not getting drafted, spending time in the minor leagues? I mean, was it kind of a thrill?
Yeah, well, like, kinda going back a little bit, like, with Team Ontario, I made Team Ontario, and it was crazy going against drop picks. Like,
Yeah.
they got every single shot possible. And it was something at one point, I I was doing very, very well. I was destroying everybody, not, like, just playing very well. I was getting a regular shift, and then all of a sudden, they're just at one point, they put me on 4 because I think they wanted to go and give their other draft picks chances on defense. So it's kinda crazy, like, every single step, I ended up going and excelling, and it's funny, I just kinda willed it. I don't know, I just kinda knew I was playing, and it's something like I've got pretty spiritual. I've gotten really into what you think is what transpires, right? The energy you put out is the energy you get in. And I've really been combining visualizing with getting my heart behind it. Really goes and really takes it to another level. But it's really interesting thing. So, like, Atlanta Thrashers, Don Waddell, very forward-thinking GM. He ended up, being, telling all the guys that all the rookies, "Hey, you're gonna go down to the IHL, the Orlando Solar Bears, and you're gonna learn how to be professional." That's another thing that stood with me. It really stayed. Like, it's just like something like that was pretty amazing. Like, I ended up going and using that, like, just always looking around and looking out how everybody else does it, right? And because you're able to go instead of being like, "Oh, my way is the only way," right? There's other options, right? So I kind of transitioned my a little bit of my preparation based on, kind of what they were doing and kind of what I believed in as well. So I ended up getting really into visualization. I really, really started going and uh, getting into a bathroom stall at the time was I would put my head down in my hands, and I would visualize myself every single situation. I receive the puck, I pass it DDD, they pass it up, and then the next time I receive the puck, I pass it DDD. Oh, the guy's in the middle of there, so I pass it up. So I went through every situation. So it was pretty cool that I was doing it way before anybody else did it. Doc Lodato, one of the doctors, just kind of a guy that was put on the team at the time. And I'm gonna tell you that organization was pretty forward thinking. It was pretty cool that it was somebody that wasn't your wife, wasn't your parents, wasn't your coach. It was a third party person that was there to go and help you along and just a person to go and talk to. And he's not reporting back to the coaches because there's so much pressure that is put on all of us every single moment. It's pretty cool, but we ended up going, playing there in Atlanta. That was super amazing. But then I get my first game in the NHL. I ended up, I think it's is it Pascal Riom? Um, so I ended up as we're going out, it was in Montreal. My dad made it to the game, And I remember going out and he turned around, he's just like, "This is your first official game." And I'm like, "Oh my God." It was just nuts. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I had a great game. I played 16 games, but the next year I played 40 something games. And I should have been there the whole year. But at that point, if you play a certain amount of games, you have to stay the full year or something. There's something along those lines that they had to make a decision. So I ended up, they wanted their recruit, a guy, their draft pick to go and play. So I ended up going down the minors. But it's going back to Orlando. Jim Hughes, the Hughes brothers' father, right? All the Hughes brothers. He's a brilliant, brilliant man. He was our assistant coach in Orlando, and it was pretty cool that the first 10 games I never played, and the 11th game I played, and I played the rest of the season. So after the year, he sat me down. He's just like, "Mike, when I was told that a 5'9" defensive defenseman that couldn't score, that was going to come down here, I'm like, what are we going to do with him?" But he's just like, "I ended up putting you in. I couldn't take you out." And that was my career. I was so valuable to the team that I was at. It's crazy that a lot of the GMs, that's why I kind of played for multiple different teams, was because once they ended up seeing me, they were just like, wow, they really, really, I was really valuable to that team at that moment. So it was really cool, like to to be able to play at a one game, let alone 633 games. It was a pretty amazing journey.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I mean, like I said, you first got to the NHL and you were kind of back and forth from the NHL and the minor leagues, but then you established yourself, as a steady NHL player and had a very solid NHL career as a defenseman. It's funny though, in the intro, I mentioned, you played for too many teams for me to even say in the intro, but in addition to being originally signed by the Atlanta Thrashers, I mean, looking through your career, I mean, you played for the LA Kings, Vancouver Canucks, St. Louis Blues, Florida Panthers, and Montreal Canadiens. Did you have a favorite team out of all the teams you played on?
Well, Atlanta wasn't probably my favorite, but it was pretty special because it was my first NHL team. You got LA, which was pretty amazing. You know, walking out of the change room into the dressing room, and like Alan Thicke's there, and he's just like, "Hey, Mike." I'm like, "Hey, Alan, what's up?" It's just like kind of surreal, like being around all these famous people is pretty cool. So, but that was my first one-way contract. It was pretty cool. I remember the year before I ended up putting my contract right on the glass in my bathroom. And I cross off my two-way and I put a one-way on there, and I put exactly what I wanted to make it. I was very close to getting the whole entire thing, but that was my first one-way contract, so that was pretty special. St. Louis was awesome. Brad Shaw, the defensive coach there, one of the most, him and Jim Hughes, probably the most defensive, brilliant minds in the game. And then Vancouver was pretty cool. Assisted on Trevor Linden's last goal ever scored. He retired that year. Um, with LA, I assisted on Luke Robitaille's goal to go ahead of all left wingers, which is a kind of cool thing to have on your resume. And then from there, 4 years with the Panthers was amazing. Oh my God, that was probably the best. Obviously, weather-wise, was pretty amazing. Just great facilities, amazing place, no state income tax. And then I get traded to Montreal for that playoff run, which had the highest taxes out there. But that was pretty special being with, Carey Price, and what amazing run, that 2014 run that we beat Boston in game 7, ended up losing against the Rangers in the semis. That was amazing. But I won two championships. The Orlando Solar Bears, my first IHL, and then that folded, and we ended up going to Chicago Wolves, and then won the Calder Cup that year. So it was a pretty two memorable championships for sure.
Wow, I mean, you had a great run with all those teams. Obviously, I also want to talk to you about some of the things you've been involved in since retiring from playing. You're the co-founder and CEO of CoachThem. And you also run your hockey academy, defense first hockey school. But my final question about, your playing career, you mentioned, guys like Luke Robitaille, and Carey Price. The list could go on and on of all the big name guys you played with, but did you have a favorite teammate?
My favorite, like, all-around good guy, which is really weird because a lot of goalies are very odd. Leverett I'm gonna say the most normal guy I'm gonna say was, Carey Price. It was um, pretty memorable to play with, such an amazing player like that. Uh Yeah, like I played with such amazing players. Andy Sutton, my partner in Atlanta Thrashers, he was 6'6", I was 5'9", so it was we we shut down the opposition pretty good. Kolyakovo was really us in St. Louis. We played really well together. But it's yeah, it kind of I don't know, it's one of the toughest things because like, with a normal job, you're, like, in these, cities that you get a place to kinda go in there and meet people, and they're all living there, and, with hockey, it's kinda tough because everybody they go home after the season, and they go to all different places, and then all of a sudden, you go from one team to one team, and then all of a sudden you're not really talking to the other team, right? And it's just like you're talking to this team. This is your new family. And then you go again to another team. You're like, well, this isn't your new family. So I have people all over the world now of amazing people, and it's yeah, it was very tough after retirement for that. It's yeah, it's I'm in Toronto now, and it was tough for sure.
No doubt about it, no doubt about it, and then, I mentioned, since retiring from playing, you're the co-founder and CEO of CoachThem. This is a cloud-based practice planning and coaching software platform, and you've had clients who, different hockey organizations, different teams. How did you get the idea of doing that?
So it all started with my hockey school because I have my hockey school too. I'll talk about my hockey school really quick, and then I'll kind of transition it how it came about. But I was okay. Like for me, I ended up going to Michigan State. I got a telecommunication degree, a minor in virtual reality, software development, web design. So I kind of it's a mishmash of um, waiving a lot of classes because back then it was in a transition into the internet. So it's crazy. Virtual reality back then was not a thing, but we actually had it at Michigan State. So it was pretty forward thinking. And so anyways, I ended up when I was at Chicago Wolves, I was going door to door asking people if they wanted me to design their website. I'm like, I didn't know how long I was going to play. I'm like, I didn't realize it was going to be this long. Inside College Hockey, I did their second rendition of their website, so which was kinda cool, but it's something that I'm just like, "All right, I wanna go and, start a hockey school," because I thought it would be fun to go and give back to the hockey community. We ended up going and doing a thinking camp. So, basically, that's kind of how I did the game, so I that's how I did it, set it up, and I think the hockey school was we teach influence, and I think this is the reason why I had such a long career, was I was every single summer, I would go back, I would think about what I did that year, I'll look at the different techniques that I came up with myself, and then I applied it to a drill, and I found it very, very tedious to go draw drills. So I ended up going and creating, then I ended up, so I did all my stuff on PDFs. I would cut and paste. I'm putting one drill, I had the other, and it's crazy. I had a binder full of my drills. So when I was with the Florida Panthers, Rob Tallis, the goalie coach there, he's just like, we're in the NHL and we're still writing drills on a piece of paper. So I ended up saying, okay, I'll put together a team. I put together a team of a couple of people, and we ended up creating Coach Them. So we have 10,000 active subscribers. We have 17 NHL teams. We have a lot of youth associations, and it's something that's fun because now I have defense first to teach the kids how to play hockey, and I got CoachThem to go and help the coaches to teach the kids. So it turned out to being amazing. We have soccer, lacrosse, we have ringette coming out. So it's something that it's not just for hockey, it's for gonna be for all sports. So I'm exciting about the future for that. And it's something that I love dealing with coaches every day and helping them along the way.
That's awesome, and it's cool how you mentioned your studies at Michigan State contributed to what you're doing now in your post-playing career. Because I think that's important for people to hear because there might be some top athletes who think that their education doesn't matter because they're gonna go pro, but in your case, you went pro, but now you're using your education at Michigan State for your post-playing life.
I always like to say all hockey leads to adult hockey. At some point at some point, you're gonna retire, and you're just gonna go and play in recreational. I play in a game, actually, I play a game with, Eric Lindros and Cody Hodgson, and there's a couple guys in there that I play with, which is awesome, but I'm gonna say most of those guys have a job. They have a job after. So, it's something that I'm gonna say, if I was to be honest, there's really no money in hockey, besides if you are a coach or you're a player. Um, I'm gonna say after that, scouts, they don't make a whole lot, right? Agents, yes, for sure. If you're one of the bigger agents, for sure, you can make a pretty good living. But to go and build that up, I think it's a lot. But I would say that a lot of players never really prepared for post career. They would be like, "Oh, I'm gonna have enough money." But, at the end of the day, I don't think you really have enough money unless you're going and investing it properly. I think you and then at the end of the day, how many days of the week can you really drink, a drink with an umbrella in there, right? Like, it's just like sitting poolside, right? At some point, you wanna do something. So, I always say that while you're playing, hockey uses you, you use hockey. Go and take advantage of what is available to you, being able to create your social media, to get it up there, the users, because your followers, nobody wants to follow like a retired person. You wanna go and get them while you're currently playing, right? Build that up. Go and even hire an agency to go and help you out with that, because I'm gonna say it's power after you retire, and a lot of guys don't want to go and even hint at looking at a job because they think it's jinxing them. Go in the summertime, go and volunteer at a place that you think that you might wanna work at some point, right? Going and, getting, stop by, get to know them, utilize, the AHL and the NHL, job finding, programs they have. So, it's something that at the end of the day, it's you wanna go and concentrate a little bit on your post career while you're currently playing.
No doubt about it, and like you said, I mean, sports don't last forever for anyone. I mean, I was someone, I played college baseball and then I didn't play beyond college, and they always told me, most of you guys aren't gonna go pro, so focus on your education. But even guys who go pro in sports still end up eventually doing something else because the retirement age in pro sports is so much younger than any other profession. Some jobs you can work in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. You can't play in the NHL when you're 65 years old. And so, like you said, even the guys who do make it pro still eventually stop playing, and have a lot of life to live after they stop playing. But, also coach them and also, your defense first hockey school. If there's anyone listening who wants to, work with you and get some coach them services or learn from you at your hockey school, how can they go about signing up to do that?
Well, the best would be to just coachthem.com, coach, THEM.com. Just go and take a look at it. We have like 5,000 plus drills for hockey. We have a lot for soccer and lacrosse as well, but, our biggest one is hockey. That would be it. Go and message, support. We're pretty good about getting back to everybody, so we have a very, very good following. We're trying to make it easier for coaches to, make their experience as being a coach, a lot more enjoyable. For defense first, go to defensefirst.com, defenceFirst. Go check that out. We have mainly in Toronto, and then we do have one in Connecticut, and then we also are having Vancouver Island this year too.
What are your main goals and kind of messages that you want to pass on to coaches and the next generation of athletes?
Well, I gotta say, for defense first, I think going and allowing kids to be kids. You can't go and I think with defense first, what do we do best is we allow the kids to go and learn, to go and, to be as long as they know every option, right? They're able to make the right choice because they're the ones that have to be making these choices. So being able to go and allow players to make mistakes. I'm gonna say that's one of the biggest things, especially in Toronto. Kids are so afraid to make mistakes. And I'm gonna say that in the business world, I'm going to say the entrepreneurs that are most successful are the ones that make mistakes, right, and learn from them. You obviously can't keep on making the same mistake over and over. You have to be a student of the game and being able to go and to learn from those mistakes as well. But with Coach Them, we're trying to make it easy, so easy for a coach to go and create a practice plan to be able to plan their season, to be able to we got some great features that are gonna be coming here in the next little bit. So it's something that we're trying to make the coach's experience so easy, so simple, that it really does, allow the coach to focus on teaching on the ice. So
When you were young and you first got into hockey, were there not as many resources available as there are now?
well, yeah, like, there wasn't an Instagram, there wasn't, Twitter, when I was playing youth hockey, a lot of the associations don't exist anymore. The fun of the game has been removed by a lot of it has to do with parents and coaches, combined. So, I'm gonna say parents, in the stands, I'm gonna say, is I always ask, if a parent is yelling and screaming at the ref, I'd be like, "Okay, so are your kids professional?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "So is the rep professional?" They're like, "No." They're like, "Okay, so they're non-professional people that are like." The reason why the NHL refs are so good is because they that's their job. They're there nonstop, and it's just it's crazy how much fun is removed based on parents getting involved too much and thinking their kids can make the NHL. Again, there's only 8,834 people that have ever played in the NHL out of the whole entire world. So the odds of you making it are very slim, but somebody has to. So why can't it be your kid? But I'm gonna say that that time on the ice during the game, that time on the ice during practice, that is their time that nothing else in the world exists except for hockey, the sport that they love. And it's if the parents go and get involved with them too much as far as making their journey miserable, it really does take the fun out of everything. And it really ruins the experience for their kids. So
Absolutely. And, I think also in youth sports with some of the like hard ass coaches who are too hard on the kids, the thing is about those coaches is not only are they too hard on kids who are playing at the youth level, but they also don't know enough about the game to coach at a level where it's appropriate to be that intense. So like it's one of those things where it's worst of both worlds, where they're too intense for the level they're at, but they also don't know the game. And couldn't coach at a level where it's appropriate to yell at people. So I think youth sports definitely struggle in that way, whether it's hockey or other youth sports. But obviously, Mike, it's been great having you on the podcast. And before we wrap up, do you have any final advice for any of your coach them or defense first clients, or just any young athletes listening on how to be kind of their best selves and be the best athlete they can be?
Well, just a comment back based on what you were saying with the coaches, I'm gonna say, I personally think that participant medals should not exist. I think that if you are good or great, I think you should be celebrated, right? It shouldn't be a level playing field. That's that I'm gonna say the sport, especially of hockey, right? If you think about it, you have 5 people from 5 different walks of life, right, that are coming together on the ice, and you have your coach that you could say is your boss that is going and giving you instructions, and you collectively gotta go and put these together, and we're it's a silly game because we're, like, passing around this little rubber thing we call a puck, and we're trying to put it past this this person that has pillows on his legs, and we're trying to put it into this mesh. And it's just like it's a silly game we play, but it teaches us so much. And a lot of people don't realize all the stuff, or like all the mistakes, the pressures. If we never had pressure our whole entire life, and then at one point we had so much pressure, we would probably die
Yeah.
of having so much pressure you don't know how to deal with it. And all these little pressure situations are little tiny little pressure situations instead of some massive big pressure. But you're collectively trying to go and put it together past um this player. But it's how and when your son or daughter gets cut, you got to use that as a learning experience. It's not a shot at you. It's basically how life is. If you go and get into the real world, if you don't do well or don't do better than the person beside you, you get let go, right? And that's how it is. That's how you fire a person, right? Is that, oh, that person's doing a better job than you. So do you know what? Why don't you go and improve? All right, and then we'll consider you next time. And that's one of the things is just like that's what's lost with this whole entire the last 5 years. I've found that, um, you know, and it's a famous, most brilliant person ever once told me, if you're not first, you're last. Ricky Bobby,
Ricky
right?
Bobby, of
Right? It's
course,
just
Talladega Nights.
right. But it's kind of true though. It's just like if you look at it like that, if you're not first, you're last. It drives you to be first. And going and seeing, okay, why weren't you first? Well, because you need this, and this. So you gotta go and spend a little bit of time on these, right? If you don't have a good shot in hockey, right? Well, understand that and acknowledge that you don't have a good shot, and you're gonna work hard at it. And the people that work hard enough at it, right? Sure, you might not be first this time. You might not be first next time, or a year from now, 2 years from now. But eventually, if you work your butt off, you're going to be first, and you're going to go and that is going to be such a more enjoyable feeling than getting a participant badge. Right?
No
Medal.
doubt about
So
it.
that's basically my take on everything, and I really wish the world would kind of almost go to that, and instead of removing all the advanced math programs in schools. You should be celebrated if you're very, very gifted and smart at math. You shouldn't remove those and actually be like, we don't want everybody else to feel subpar. Yeah, you should feel subpar, and you have to work at it, right? And it's just like that is one of the things that kind of bugs me about everything right now. And it comes back into our game of hockey, right? It's just like acknowledge, and parents acknowledge that it's good for your kid to get cut, right? It's good for your kid to feel these feelings, because you don't want to get to a point where it's just too massive of thing that they don't know how to deal with it. So that's my take on everything. So
No doubt about it. Yeah, and being humbled kinda sometimes helps you in the long run. You learn sometimes more valuable lessons from being humbled and failing than you do from when you succeed. So, I think that's great advice for, any young athletes or any coaches out there. But, Mike, like I said, it's been awesome having you on the podcast, and I appreciate all of your insight. I'm sure the audience has appreciated it as well. And, once again, everyone, that was Mike Weaver. You've been listening to the Leverett Ball Show.